Hi, everyone. It is time for our Wednesday Wisdom with Friends. Glad to be with you, and I am going to be sharing some exciting news with you. I'm going to put that here in the chat. I'm sharing news tonight, and my friend Carolyn is probably going to be joining us, sharing news tonight. Okay, let me see if I can get Carolyn here to join real quickly because she is part of this news that I'm sharing. She helped me so much. Let me see if she pops up right here. I'm inviting exciting news about something I've been working on, something that I've alluded to, and how I got to what we are doing. And there she is. You have been the quickest, most easy to join guest I have had so far. Like you figured
Well,
out
thank
that.
you. I'm glad to hear that.
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
I'll
So
just turn my
everyone,
ringer off so that we have no interruptions.
oh, I know. I've been kicked off a few times. We'll see how that goes. It just happens. So, friends, this is Carolyn
Hi,
Master, who is
everybody.
hello. She is a well, I'll let you tell everyone what you do, and then I'll share with everyone how that connects you to me.
Sure. So I consult with authors like Suzanne, helping them develop the content of their books. And so I can do everything from the outlining, brainstorming side to coaching through the writing to getting ready for production and publishing. So hiring an agent, all that kind of stuff, I kind of help with the materials for that.
So, some of you are like, well, why would Suzanne know that? And you referred to Suzanne as an author. And what is
I sure
that all
did.
about? So, a week ago, I signed a deal with Chalice Press to publish a book that will come out in a year from this month. Working title, we'll see what final title is, but basically, they like our fact checking your Jesus title, the newsroom tie life lessons I wish I learned in church. And so, y'all hang with me for a second because I'll tell you the story about how I met Carolyn and then we'll talk through the process because I just think this is so awesome for anyone who wants to do something but doesn't know if they can. That there are people and friends that just fall in place into your life to help you do it, if it's what you're supposed to be doing. And that is exactly what happened with me. Um, December of 2020, we all know what December of 2020 was like. At a really frustrating Friday night, I reacted to something probably in a way I should not react. But in that not being able to sleep that mid-December Friday night, I felt the urge to email bestselling author Katie Cole, who is an expert in women leaders in faith circles, and poured out my story and what I wanted to do. And by Sunday afternoon, I had heard from Katie's assistant who said, would love to schedule a call for you and Katie. So I talked to Katie that week. And Katie was, I remember talking to her in her car, and she's like, I want you to talk to, she's like, I don't think you have just one book in you. I think you have several books and all of these different things, and gave me awesome advice. And she's like, I want you to talk to my writing consultant, Carolyn, and gave me the phone. And then within days, it was before the end of December that I talked to you. And we just started the process, and the book was written. So it will be published 3 years after we finish the first
Yeah.
draft, which is not normal how you do nonfiction. But I want to be up and up for those of y'all who are very familiar with TV world and how it works. And I don't want like everyone being like, oh, I've got, that I can just do it. And Carolyn will tell you, I was so careful about making sure that I was not violating anything in my personal service agreement. That's my contract. All of those things. I wanted to be up and up with my employer. I wanted to have it all written so everybody can sign off, so we didn't get into the process and be like, oh, we can't do this. So I slow rolled it to make sure I wasn't doing anything wrong, and that to make sure we did it right. And then even slow rolled the getting it out there to make sure it was building, getting to know you all. So I don't know if that's how you meet most of your folks. We just did a your advice to me, and I don't know what your thoughts were for that first thing, but I will never forget your advice to me, and I think this could be advice to other people, was, Suzanne, just sit and write. Just sit and write. Just pour it out. Is that something you find that you tell a lot of people to do in these kinds of processes?
I do. I think it depends on the individual and where they are in the process and what their goals are for that project. But for the most part, I think people get in the way of themselves and they lack the confidence to just sit down and write what's on their heart or on their agenda. And sometimes they just need someone like me that can come alongside them and say, let's just take it one step at a time. Take your next step, which is to sit down and put pen to paper.
Yeah. So that's what we did. And the process we went through was just, I would write, you would say, like, 'cause I'm definitely a trained writer for the ear in speaking. So most of it was, you can tell your opinion about this. This isn't, this isn't news, tell a story here, expand. And I will just say 2021 was a really hard year for me in my professional life, just because of, we lost a friend in my newsroom, just a lot of tough stuff. And my escape was every vacation and weekend going back and forth with you.
Yeah.
Like, it was my fun thing. And I think you said that at one point. You said, Suzanne, you talk about how it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. And I think a lot of people lose the joy in writing when they feel overwhelmed or they kind of hit some of those tough spots of, can I really do this? And then they start procrastinating or they dread sitting down to the table. And so it's really for those folks sitting down and helping them come up with a list of things that they can write about. And so when they're feeling that anxiety or they're unable to get to a place where they can produce, at least they have some low-hanging fruit that they know they can attend to. And you didn't have that problem. You looked forward to writing and found it to be a joy and a wonderful outlet from your day-to-day. And like you said, your writing style had to shift and change, and you grew so much because we know from the newsroom, writing, brevity is king in the newsroom. It's very succinct and factual, but when you're writing something that has a lot of gumption behind it and emotion and things that you want to convey and points to make, my thing with you was just drawing you out of yourself and saying, you actually have permission to tell a story here, to go deeper and to share more.
And then we ended up having to bring it back down, before it's over. May have to have on you. I may need to do that a little more. But yeah, so it was a fun process, and I'm sure it's different for everyone. But I will say, for those listening to this either live or later, I think what brought me to this was, 2020 and my health challenges and whatever it may be for you, caused a lot of us to reflect. And for me, it was, okay, if something were to happen, if I were to be diagnosed with cancer again, what would I regret not doing? And for me, it was circling back to every time I got sick. Oh, it's my dog. Every time I got sick, I thought about doing this book and how I wanted to do it. And I didn't want to ever, I think, we all thought about things during 2020. And I didn't want to not do this in life. And I wanted to make sure I got it done. So I'm very happy it's getting done. Chalice is a small publisher, for those of y'all who haven't heard of it, is based out of St. Louis. So it's awesome. They're great folks. Their publisher is a former newspaper writer. So he totally gets the vision and what it is and what we're doing, and excited to be partnering with them. It's taken a while to get there, circled back to them, and just very, very excited about it. So if somebody's goal is writing, because you help with so many things, how would they find you or someone like you to help them? What would your advice be to them first?
Sure.
If they wanted to do something like that, and then how do they do full circle and come back to someone like you, and how does that work for a normal person?
Right. So my thing is, a lot of times when we write, we're apt to go to people we know and sit with them, whether it be a spouse or a family member, someone close to the heart, to share ideas with. And one thing that I would say is that you're worth the expert. So looking for someone outside your circle that you can be a little vulnerable with and share your ideas and just kind of float them like, is there room for me in the market? Where do you see this fitting in? Do I have ideas that seem like they flow together and are concise and that I can really reach the audience and the people that I want to reach and have a connection with through what I'm writing about? And so having someone that you can bounce those ideas off of, I think is really important. And having someone close to you who's always going to tell you yes may not be the best person to go to. Not that I'm in the business of saying no, but I think that having someone who can look at things critically and really step into things professionally with you is a real gift to you. And it elevates and creates importance for what you're doing. I do think there are passion projects that we have as well that are just things like stories or experiences or testimonies that we have that we just have to get on paper. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's meant for a huge audience. And so maybe someone closer to your heart would be the right person to bounce those ideas off of. But I do think if you're looking to publish a book, it should have value for others, unless it's just your journal and meant for you. But if you're publishing to reach others, then invest in the process to find a coach or someone who can come alongside you and meet you where you are and help you get where you want to go. So with me personally, I don't do any marketing. Everything is word of mouth and just an open-handedness before God that I'm willing to do whatever He asks me to do. And I'm very prayerful and shrewd and careful about who I take on as a client and make sure that I can help them and do it authentically and really help them reach their goals. But I most of my business has been through people like yourself and Katie Cole, who have just kind of said, like, I know someone that's doing this and could really help you. So my business is Carolyn Reed Consulting, and I have a website, carolynreedconsulting.com, and I have a little place where you can drop me a message if you want to talk about it and just kind of see if there's a way that we could partner together to reach your goals. But with Suzanne, I'm just so thrilled because we get to do a lot together. Writing has opened up even more opportunities and platforms for you to speak and develop messages to really reach women specifically that you're targeting, but a host of people that are influenced by what you have to say. So I'm glad that I get to be on your team.
I do. When I mention my team, I do mention Carolyn because, yes, you helped with a book. When I do speeches, so many things that you do and you have done. You're very humble. Check out her website because you see some of the big names that she's helped do things for. And there are some awesome people she's done things for. And I will say, for someone out there who has a dream in whether it be writing or another area, the world has gotten very complicated in navigating those things. So in some ways it's easier. Like if you've got the thing where you don't mind if it's just your family and friends, but you want it in a hardcover, you can do it quickly, like on Amazon, those kinds of things. But because of that, because there are so many self-publishers and Amazons and things like out there, publishing world, traditional publishing world, which I decided to go, and it's tricky. It's always was nuanced, always tricky from what I understand, even more than it used to be. And what you get isn't what it used to be. And so to have someone who has walked through that with multiple people and to understand how to get through there and then just to network and all of that, please, I would just encourage, anyone to not go it alone. Just find someone and just do your research. There are a lot of websites, a lot of groups. If you want to direct message me, I can send you to like other sites that I found, and like Facebook groups and things that just give a lot of information on how to go through those. Yes, we will try to do this more often for people who need to hear this. That's awesome. Thank you for that encouragement. I appreciate that.
Definitely. So yeah, thank you.
it's, yeah, there are folks out there who have been through it, and there's very little that anyone is the first to ever do or starting from ground.
Exactly. And I think we're meant to encourage each other with where we are. And, the Bible, we're believers. And so the Bible says to encourage one another and to comfort one another with the ways that you've been comforted. And the extension of that would be to walk with people on pathways that you've walked. And so I think part of that is sharing these kinds of things, like you've walked this journey from beginning to end very patiently, might I add, and have worked the process. And so it is really a moment to celebrate you, Suzanne, and all that you've done over the last 3 years to get to this point. And I was so thrilled last week when you messaged me and said, I got a contract. Because it is a journey, and having people walk with you to celebrate those milestones is really a treasure. So I'm glad that we get to encourage people to do that, to reach their writing goals as well.
Yeah, and I almost messed up a few times. Like, it wasn't for, like, so I look at this as it was obviously supposed to happen, because there were a few weeks ago that was like, oh, I messed up. And somebody was in my office, and I was telling the story, and it's like, and those of y'all who follow me, I talk about life lessons. They're like, it was just a life lesson for you. I'm like,
there we go. Yeah.
A really hard one that further out, I'll share with everyone more about, Suzanne's life. And I would also encourage, I know that, you want to keep some things under wraps. A life lesson I have learned in this process, and while I did slow roll it and loop in like my bosses and everyone in there, to the extent you can, I probably wasn't always as open about what was going on with everyone in my life. And it is time consuming. And it does, if you're not like totally open with everyone about what you're doing, it can then kind of get mysterious and stuff. So I would just say, you said this, I will say from the very beginning, I was like, do I need to like do these, certain things or whatever? And your encouragement to me from the very beginning, which was always spot on. And if I ever got tripped up, it's because you're like, why don't you just talk to them? Before you go extreme, why don't you just talk to them or ask? I think that was like in conversation number 2 I had with you.
Yeah.
It was great advice.
And your situation is a little unique because of your profession and the legal side of being in broadcasting, sharing stories and putting yourself out there publicly. Like there's a lot of different responsibilities. But I would say on the flip side, all writers face this. There is a level of caution and thoughtfulness that every writer has to broach in how they tell stories in particular, and just being careful of books are legacy. They're not something that you can flippantly say on a stage and it will be forgotten in antiquity. Books are forever. And so just being cautious of the way that you talk about certain situations. And so I'm always a huge fan of, why don't you go and talk to them? Why don't you circle back and just clarify that issue or that story and get permission and do it sensitively with a heart for how what you say reflects on and impacts the people who are involved in those stories, but also are going to read them and what lessons they're going to take away from them. So there is that responsibility to just go and have the conversation when it's needed.
The right thing to do is always the right thing to do.
That's right. And it never goes out of style to be cautious and to do the right thing. So yes, that should precede everything.
Okay, with that is a good note to leave on. So again, tell everyone your website so they can find you.
I'm at CarolynReedConsulting.com.
Okay, awesome. And for those of y'all, if you follow Carolyn and not me normally, I'm SuzanneNadel.com, and you can follow me right here. I'm normally on my back deck, but it's under construction still. So
yeah, you had a big storm take out your deck, huh?
In March.
Oh my goodness. It'll get there. It'll get there. We'll get you back on the back deck soon.
It always fills my heart to talk to you, Carolyn.
Likewise.
Thank Thank you. And you know what, everyone? I made a great friend in this process, a friend that I didn't know I needed. So take that leap. You'll never know what friends you make along the way. So anyway, I'll talk to you
I'm
later.
glad you're my friend too.
Aw. I'll see you later, and I'll see everyone else later
All
too.
right.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.